And that's who's going to pay for you to live while at university. Who is it? Do you know? This is what you've got to think out. I mean, at the moment, I would suggest most of you, probably not all of you, but most of you live at home with your parents. The things that you have are generally paid for in the family home, by your parents, in the way it works. When you go to university, who pays? Look at that face there. Don't think on me, I haven't got a clue. Yes?
You can normally get a maintenance loan, and then that's normally, you get the full London amount, around 9,000 a year. You get it termly.
Spot on. Maintenance loan. So we're still in the loan system. When you go to university, your living costs come from a maintenance loan, or at least that's what you're supposed to think. In many ways, while all the political focus is on the tuition fees, this is the thing you're going to have the most practical difficulty with. Living while at university. Is the loan enough? How does it actually work? And there's a conversation I'm going to want you to have with your parents here, which is crucially important. And for those of you watching at home, if you're sitting watching with your parents, keep watching. Don't look awkwardly at each other while we go through this. You can have the conversation afterwards, but this is very important that you're going to do it. So, here's how it works. The maintenance loan that you get, first of all, depends on 3 factors. Are you living at home? If you're not living at home, are you studying in London or out of London? The lowest loan, full loan, is for those living at home, then for those living away from home outside London, and the biggest loan is for those living away from home in London. For obvious reasons, London is a more expensive city to live in than the rest of the country. But here's what is not talked about. Here, in fact, is what I believe the government hides from you, hides from your parents. The amount of maintenance loan that you will get, the amount of loan that you get to live off, is means tested. In other words, it depends on what's called your family's residual income. Forget the residual word, it just overcomplicates it and means they take off some pension contributions your parents make. So family income means parental income. That's the point I'm making. Family income means parental income. How much you get to live off at university depends on how much your parents earn. Now, this is really important because when you go to university, you're going to be 18. You're going to be old enough to get married. You're going to be old enough to vote. You're going to be old enough to join the army and die for our country. But under the student finance system, you are not old enough to be counted as an independent adult. Your finances will still depend, even though you've all been sitting there 18, I'm independent, do what I like. Not in the student finance system. What you get depends on your parents. And this makes a big impact. Up to half, they can reduce the loan by up to half because of your parental income. So if your parents earn roughly over £65,000 combined, roughly, then you'll get half the loan that those people whose parents earn less than £25,000 get. But here's the fun bit that I really, really like. So let's think about it. The living away from home outside of London maintenance loan currently is around £9,000 a year if you got the full amount, roughly £9,000 a year. So if your parents earn over £65,000, you're going to get £4,500. Who does the government say should make up the difference? Parents? Anyone else? No. No. No, they don't say anything at all. They don't even tell you that your loan has been reduced. What's going to happen is you're going to get a letter. And your letter is going to be like this. What's your name? Zoe. Dear Zoe. How are you? They won't be like that. Dear Zoe, we would like to inform you that your maintenance loan in the first year is going to be £4,500. That's it. That's what you get. It doesn't say, Dear Zoe. The full loan somebody in your circumstance would be getting is £9,000. But due to the means testing of family residual income, you'll only be getting £4,500, which I'd prefer. It doesn't say what I would really like it to say, which is, Dear Zoe, The full loan for somebody in your circumstance is £9,000. You're getting £4,500. The gap is £4,500. We're expecting your parents to make up that gap, which you could then take to your parents and say, look, here is the expected parental contribution. It doesn't say that. What it does is it sets you against your parents. Because you go to university, this conversation hasn't been had, you get £4,500, your cost of living at that university is £7,000 a year for rent. Your parents are saying, and I have had this on my TV roadshows, I had a guy who came up to me who was living on cold baked beans and saying, I can't afford to live at university, my loan isn't big enough. And I looked at it and said, what about the parental contribution? And he said, well, my parents have said, you're on your own now. You know, university is about being an independent adult. Go for it. You've got to do this yourself. Because nobody had told them about the parental contribution. This is hidden within the system. If you get less than the full loan, by definition, it is based on family income, then the state is expecting your parents to contribute. It's not me doing that. I don't necessarily think it's right, but that is how the system works. Now, your parents may not be able to afford to contribute. I accept that. But what is really important is you do this. If you remember nothing else today, remember this. When you get your loan letter, find out what the full loan is. Subtract what you're getting from the full loan. So let's say you're getting £5,000 and the full loan's £9,000. 9,000 minus 5,000 is? £4,000. And you say to your parents, the gap from the full loan, the parental contribution is £4,000. It would be great if you could help me to that amount. Guess what you can do if your parents don't want to give you the money? Nothing. Nothing. You've got no way to force your parents to give you money. They're not legally responsible for giving you the money. Unless you're declared what's called an independent adult, which properly means you have to be estranged from your family and not in contact and financially independent. You know, it's not something you can jemmy just to get this to work. Then it doesn't make up the gap. And actually, many of the students who struggle most at university are not those from the poorest families, because they get the full loan. It's those in the middle. The really rich, well, they've got enough money that it can, you know, they're going to give the kids anyway. Those in the middle who've never had this discussion, and the parents get really upset. And when I tell them, and they come and talk to me when I'm doing my road shows, and they come and talk to me, and I say, what about the parental contribution? And they say, I didn't know. Am I meant to give that? And now, so when I had a big argument with a guy called Joe Johnson, Boris's brother, who was university's minister, about this, and they said, this is absolutely inappropriate. The state, at the very least, if you're going to have an implied parental contribution, the state should tell people what the parental contribution is. He said, no, students can make up the gap any way they choose. They can go out to work, they can get scholarships, they can get grants. And I said, well, then why do you assess them based on their parents' income? Well, it doesn't make sense. If the only factor that dictates how much you're going to get is your parents' income, then the state is saying there is a parental contribution system. So look, you have to be fair with your parents. The parental contribution system is really rough. It just takes income into account. If your family earns £70,000 a year and have hideous credit card debts of £50,000 a year, that is not factored in. Did you know about it? No. And let me tell you, your parents don't know about it either in most cases. So really important. So we've done what you pay to go to university, the state pays. We've done how much you live off, the maintenance loan. I have to tell you, even the full loan is going to be a struggle. When I went to university, which is 5 or 6 years ago now, that was too loud. It wasn't that funny. Out. Can I do that? When I went to university, it was actually, which was 1991, way before any of you were born. So when I went to university, we were at the cusp of a changeover. Before that, it was actually rather frowned upon to work while you were at uni. You know, the thought was you should be here focused on your studies. You shouldn't be out going getting a part-time job at the time. And I was at the point where that was changing somewhat, because to be able to afford to go, you know, you often needed to work. When you go, there is a good thing that the landscape has changed totally. As an employer, I can tell you this. I want you to go to university and get a really good degree, but I'd also like to see some real life experience. And working is really important. And people can get snobbish about this. They think that working means you have to go and get some brilliant, amazing job right in the summer holidays, and it was just incredible. We just tripped off. You know, no, I was working at this record company doing R&A. It was amazing. Look, Actually, I don't want to see that. As an employer, a work ethic will do. You know, if you stack the shelves in a supermarket overnight while you were a student, I know that means you've got some real oomph and graft and determination about you to enable yourself to succeed and thrive when you move on. So you are probably, to be able to afford to live, going to want to get yourself a job whilst you're at university, a part-time job, a weekend job, a job in your summer holidays. Go and do it. It'll be great if it can give you work experience in whatever profession you might want to go on afterwards, but it doesn't have to be. So thankfully, your generation, universities don't look negatively on the fact that you're going to go and get work, and I, as an employer, would encourage you to do so. And don't get too granular about, is it a good job for my CV or isn't it? What I actually want to see is, this person can graft. Yeah, they've got a degree in a relevant subject for what I'm employing them, but look, also, they've gone out and they've done some hard work at the same time. And it's really valuable that you go and do so.